In this video, I'm going to talk about the new spoiler Maskwood Nexus and the World Tree. And I'm going to talk about, well, is this Splinter Twin? Well, hello there. I'm Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet. I'm the Magic the Gathering content creating equivalent of a prawn cocktail flavoured scented candle. Would that make you hungry or horny? Or maybe both. Yesterday, when playing some League of Legends with some patrons on my Discord, I saw the Maskwood Nexus show up on spoiler sites, and I was like, this immediately combos with the World Tree. For those of you who haven't seen the World Tree yet, the World Tree is an ETB tapped land that makes a green mana. It's not legendary because the World Tree, apparently not a legendary place. Or they just hate printing legendary lands. Who knows? It makes green mana, but more importantly, if you have 6 or more lands in play, all your lands tap for any colour of mana. So it's perfect fixing in a 5-colour commander deck. The most important part of all this, though, well, I say most important part, the fixing is also important, but I'll come to that more in a moment, is that it has its activated ability of double white, double blue, double black, double red, double green, or double Wooburg, as some people call it, or Progenitus mana, to tap it, sacrifice the World Tree, search your library for any number of God cards, and put them on the battlefield and shuffle your library. When it says God cards, if you're not too aware of this, it means creatures with the God type. Now, in my spoiler roundup video number 2, I think it was, I joked that this is the next big card for Mono Blue Minotaurs. Mono Blue Minotaurs was a deck where I transformed powerful creatures like Emrakul and Grizzlebrand into Minotaurs via adaptive mutation style spells, the 3-mana enchantment from Ixalan, and the 1-mana instant that does it permanently from, testing my knowledge off the top of my head, Homelands? Odyssey? Onslaught? It's the one with the little spidery... It's from that set, anyway. I joked because I guess you could play one of those mutations on gods, making all your creatures gods, and then you could activate the World Tree and put Emrakul and Grizzlebrand into play. Which is strong, but not as strong as even Didgeridoo, because it's cheaper and more efficient, I guess, or the traditional show and tell variants of what that deck was, which was a show and tell variant. Less than 24 hours pass from me making that joke, and we see a card similar to the enchantment in the instant I just shown, spoiled for Kaldheim. We see Maskwood Nexus. Maskwood Nexus is a 4-mana artifact that says creatures you control are every creature type. Full stop. The same is true of creature spells you control, so think on the stack, and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield, so your graveyard, exile, and in your library that you own. No, it's not control. I mean, that probably won't come up that much, but it's only things you own, not what you control. So if you steal someone else's creature, it doesn't gain all the creature types. Weird thing. 3 mana, tap it, create a 2/2 blue shapeshifter creature token with Changeling. Changeling means every type, so it makes any type of creature you need it to make. This means that with Maskwood Nexus and the World Tree, we have a combo, it is an expensive combo, 10 mana, Wooburg mana, to basically put every creature in your deck into play. This is a combo going into standard, this is a combo putting it into the same set. Now, I tweeted about this kind of a little bit absent-mindedly. I wasn't insinuating that this combo will ruin standard or even be that good necessarily, although I'll talk more about that in a second, but I was more pointing out that combos are being hand-delivered to us in the same set, and they're kind of obvious. Like, perhaps because I played, Mono Blue Minotaurs in the past and stupid meme decks a lot on this channel, I saw it and was immediately like, okay, it clicks. Maybe that was the reason, but I think a lot of people are going to see this combo. Right? It's not hidden, it's in plain sight. It is being given to us on a platter. And one of the problems I have with this, or the main problem I have with this, is I don't like it when new sets give us decks wholesale. Like, they give you 7 cards with this mechanic, and 4 which are obviously the limited ones, and you put those 7 cards on deck, add some lands, add some removal, Bob's your uncle, fan as you aren't, you're playing energy, or you're playing another parasitic mechanic that doesn't show up in other formats that much, and it's very obvious what you should play. And I guess this gets even more obvious when it comes to things like this. Now, it has happened in the past. People on Twitter were very quick to point out the same thing over and over again. The obvious one is Saheeli Cat combo, where they printed the Felidar Guardian, and Saheeli into the same set, and they went infinite with each other. This became a combo in Modern and Pioneer and stuff, and they acknowledged that that was an accident. It was missed in design. What that means is infinite combos, at least, or they don't plan or mean to do. Now, this isn't an infinite combo, this is a game-ending combo. Now, you might be thinking, putting all your creatures into play means you still have to pass the turn like Rathu and stuff. There are ways to win on the spot, which I'll come to in a second as well. So maybe infinite combos they don't want, but they don't mind, win the game on the spot combos. Seems odd to me. Seems odd that they print this. Now, obviously, it's a lot more mana than Saheeli Cat combos. Saheeli Cat combos are 3 and a 4. This is a 4-mana artifact and 10 mana on a land. The other recent combo people pointed out was the Cat Oven combo, which I don't personally feel is a combo, and this is where we get into this quite grey area of defining combo versus synergy. The cat oven combo, and I'm using that term very loosely here, was designed for limited, I'm almost certain. And then what happened was it ended up being good enough to jump out of limited and into constructed, because there was payoffs for sacking your things, like the devil and Corvold and shit. This draft synergy ended up being a lot better than they expected. Now with World Tree and Maskwood Nexus being so fucking obvious, I assume it wasn't missed, and I assume they think it's bad, and therefore they don't really mind it coming. Now, bearing in mind they thought Oko wasn't that good, and I guess they didn't really expect Omnath or Uro to do what it did, I think maybe some caution might be needed when just throwing these things out to the player base and being like, well, probably isn't that good. And that brings me to my next point, I guess. Is it any good? Now, if we're looking to play this combo in Modern or Legacy or something where you get access to a lot more parts, for example, in this combo you can put any 2-card infinite creature combo in, Kiki Jiki and Restoration Angel, and immediately you have won the game on the spot. I don't really think that that combo is going to be good enough. I don't think getting this landing, getting Maskwood Nexus in and comboing off is going to be good enough. There's a small chance that there's a shell where this works somehow for some weird reasons that I'll come to now in just a second, but I don't think it's going to be good enough for Modern or Legacy. In Standard, however, now, look, the 4-mana artifact itself isn't that good on its own. This is where the stress point of the combo comes. The tree is a fucking land. So people are like, oh, it's an 11-mana combo because you need the land itself plus 10 more mana. And I'm like, yeah, but one of the combo pieces is on a fucking land. The opportunity cost of playing this land is minimal. Hell, this land will probably see play anyway, because once you get to 6 mana on any deck where you've got a World Tree in play, you have the best fixing we've probably ever seen on a land in Standard. This card is legitimately probably just good enough to play as a one-of anyway in your mid-range decks. Now, the Nexus, on the other hand, doesn't really do anything. It's a 4-mana artifact that you play, and then it does nothing. On the following turn, for slightly less cost than its actual costing cost, you can make a changeling. What it does do, though, is if there are actual, factual, tribal decks in Standard, dwarves, for example, or elves, or whatever, where all the creatures sharing a type creates some sort of very strong advantage, and there are some bit players that you want to play in there alongside your tribal stuff, then it might be good enough to slot into there, so you end up with a World Tree, Maskwood Nexus, slotting into a random tribal deck. However, I don't think that's probably going to happen. I don't even know if this combo will really have an impact. However, there are cards that do synergize with this already that we're seeing, and you've got to remember that 11 mana isn't that astronomical. We are in a format and we're in a world where ultimatums at 7 and Ugins at 8 aren't the end of the world in terms of getting there with mana, and they don't always end games either because both players are firing super powerful things back and forth. An Ugin resolving at 8 can be game over for a aggro deck that has its board wiped, sure, but in the mid-range matchups, sometimes it'll tick up, get trophied or whatever the current removal spell is for walkers in Standard, and then the game goes on. Now, 11 mana is a step above 8 mana, but the point I'm getting at is that ramp exists, and one of these cards isn't a card you have to play as a spell, it is just a fixing land that also happens to be part of a combo. Now, where can we make this a bit better in Standard? Well, there is the new Dwarf, the 2-mana Dwarf. I actually had to pause there to look up her name. Magda Brazen Outlaw. A 2-mana 2-1, legendary creature, Dwarf Berserker. Other dwarves you get control get +1/+0. And whenever a dwarf you control it becomes tapped, not attacks, weirdly, but becomes tapped, create a treasure token. Sacrifice 5 treasure tokens, search your library for an artifact or dragon card, put that card into the battlefield, then shuffle your library. She's a 2-1 for 2. I've seen people going off about how 2-1s for 2 don't belong in combo decks, but if the utility allows you to combo, you play them. The idea that you don't play utility creatures in combo decks is an absurd notion that I'm just gonna not even bother refuting with examples. It's just silly. If this ends up being a backup plan for perhaps dwarf dragon a mid-range or an aggressive mid-range deck where you have a plethora of dwarves, perhaps dwarves in the 1-drop and 3-drop slot as well, perhaps changelings filling in those slots in green. They're all pumped by her. When you attack with your team, so you attack with 4 dwarves including a Magda, you get 4 treasure tokens. And as you can see, if you're attacking with 4 dwarves on turn 3, you're actually very close to activating World Tree. Beyond that, you can sacrifice 5 treasure tokens to search your library for an artifact or a dragon card. Now, if the artifact is in play, you get treasures from all your creatures attacking, all your creatures are buffed by Magda, and you can search for any creature in your deck using the search for dragon claws. Or, alternatively, if the artifact is not in play, you can sack 5 treasures to go get the artifact. Now, treasure production might be where this actually all falls apart and there isn't enough ways to make enough treasure. Magda's the only example that I think I know of that's any good in current Standard, but there might be other ones. There is actually the 5-mana... I literally just thought of an example as I said that. There's the new dragon. We actually talked about this on my Discord this morning, and I'd forgotten about it as I was writing my notes. Goldspan Dragon is a 5-mana 4/4 with flying and haste. Whenever Goldspan Dragon attacks or becomes the target of a spell, create a treasure token. Treasures you control have tap, sack this artifact at 2 mana. You see what I'm getting at here? It's not that you have to just land by land every turn get to 11 mana. You can make treasures. All your lands will tap for whatever fucking colour you want from turn 5 or 6 onwards anyway. Like, there are ways to get to this combo well ahead of the turn 11. Now, if the format is incredibly fast and aggro reigns supreme, this stuff won't work. And it might be that this thing might not even work now in current standard. What it might be is that people try it like myself and it doesn't go anywhere, and then we have to have rotation and we have to have things change for the combo to be any good. For example, we might see a ridiculous ramp spell in green, or something that search up your land, like a new Golos variant, for example, in the following sets, which makes this deck come back with Avengers later. One of the other problems that comes with having both parts in the same set is that if these two cards do become like a dominant archetype, probably not, but there's a possibility. If they did, they rotate together. So you've got to wait for the entire set to rotate. I like the idea of spreading out your cards across multiple sets, so rotations can come and dismantle decks and change them again, in a way that Standard should have. Outside of this, in Historic, you get access to things like Golos to go and get the World Tree itself. And then, well, let's talk about how you win. In Standard, you've got Terror of the Peaks. Terror of the Peaks, ETBs, load of creatures, and they all do their damage to the target player, and they're very simple, very easy. In Historic, you can go with Terror of the Peaks, which is a 5-mana dragon, which fits into that Dwarf dragon, like, sort of shell that I was talking about before. But also you can play Risen Reef and Thassa's Oracle. Every creature ETBing will be an elemental addition to its other types, triggering Risen Reef over and over and over. If you put 20 creatures into play, 4 of which are Risen Reef, and they're all elementals, that's 20 times 4. That's your whole deck, either put into play as a land or drawn to hand. And then what you have is one of the creatures be Thassa's Oracle. And you put this trigger of the Thassa's Oracle on the stack last, Bob's your uncle, fun as you are, you win off Thassa's Oracle. Again, we're in that place where cool and unique and interesting combo decks just devolve into, does Walking Ballista sink the infinite mana, or does Thassa's Oracle just draw your deck? And I kind of hate that too. That's something I've spoken about in videos before as well. So that, my friends, is Maskwood Nexus and the World Tree. One of the deep ironies of all this, I don't know if it is irony, but it's funny, is that if this became a tier 1 combo deck somehow in like big ramp, where you just ramp out your whole deck and kill your opponent, and it's another card with Nexus in the name that becomes a problem, I just think that's kind of funny. Oh, and one last thing. People are adding up the mana totals of the 4-mana artifact and the activation cost of the tree and saying it's a 15-mana combo. By that logic, Splinter Twin is a 7-mana combo. By that logic, Charbelcher is like a 14 or 15-mana combo. The point I'm getting at is that some parts are fixed, some parts decrease the cost of other parts, or some parts get cast on an earlier turn, and some parts are on a fucking land. Just adding up the total and saying that makes it unplayable is a dumb way of looking at combos. So what do you think? Am I barking up the wrong tree? To be fair, I'm being quite reserved with this. I think it could be a deck, but not necessarily a top tier deck. And it depends what we see in the spoilers now, all the stuff from the next sets as well, like Strixhaven. Or do you think this combo is going to be fucking absurd? Also, I want to know what you think about them both being in the same set together, being handed to us like, here's a combo, enjoy. I feel like half the work is done for us. And I know half the work is done for us anyway by the collective internet, because we're not brewing these decks on our own. But I feel like being handed these things, it's almost like being handed precons. Here's an archetype, here's an archetype, here's a combo, play with those. I much prefer the collective community, like, you know, figuring things out, figuring out what the best deck is and beating it each week, instead of going with archetype A versus archetype B. Let me know in the comment section below. I've been Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video. About some more gameplay a bit later today or maybe tomorrow, and then some more spoilers a week. And on Thursday, I get to reveal my preview cards. They're not very exciting, but that doesn't matter. You should come here and watch me preview them. I'll see you soon. Ta-ta for now.